Hey everyone, Walter TGB here, and boy do I have an adventure for you all today. You see, recently I spent hours driving from my home here in The Hague to the southern German city of Heidelberg in the state of Baden-Württemberg, a state that I have deep personal ties with, mainly because I know a lot of people from there, but had never actually visited, and the city of Heidelberg in particular is one I wanted to visit, not just because it's a major tourist destination, but because I had actually been considering living there at some point in the near future. So you can imagine that it wasn't really an easy decision for me to write such a negative and admittedly provocative video title, and that I mean every word of it. So today, in this video, we're going to be exploring exactly why I think Heidelberg might be the lamest destination in all of Germany, and one of in all of Europe. We're going to start off with the big one, Heidelberg Castle. This is the major tourist attraction of the city, and it is actually the #1 most visited castle in all of Germany, beating the likes of Neuschwanstein, Sanssouci, and the Residenz in Munich. So it is competing with some heavy hitters and somehow winning. And yet, in my opinion, this might be Germany's #1 tourist trap. Now, don't get me wrong, you can do worse than Heidelberg. There are tons of places in Germany that are just whatever, like in any country. But as for places with a reputation like Heidelberg and attractions with a reputation like Heidelberg Castle, it doesn't get much more underwhelming than this. What I can say on the positive side is that the castle offers relatively nice views, and the ruins that you can see are somewhat picturesque, but that's really it. Ruins, and they're not even some of the best castle ruins that I've seen. You can see much better ones across the United Kingdom, or even in Luxembourg. There are Borscheid and Beaufort, both castle ruins, that knock this one out of the park. There really isn't that much to explore except for a courtyard, which, like I said, is somewhat pretty, but it's just full of overpriced shops and restaurants, and you can tell they're trying to pry as much money from the nearly cold, dead hands of their visitors as possible, because that's right, I think the only reason this place gets visited by as many people as it does is because river cruises full of octogenarians load all of their passengers off here for a day and let them go wild. Because to be honest, the age distribution when I was there of all the tourists was really skewered. But it can't just be a couple of underwhelming ruins and some views of the city, right? Well, true. But you know what else is there? A pharmacy museum. Yeah, you heard me. And a giant wine barrel. I legitimately cannot articulate how lame this stuff is. It is unbelievable. The pharmacy museum is something I never want to hear again because it automatically might trigger a response that makes me fall asleep, but somehow this was even worse and more lame than I expected it to be. If you're a pharma freak, go for it, I guess. I mean, it is free, but you have to pay to get onto this stupid courtyard anyway, so it's not really free. But even if you're interested in this subject matter, it's very small, there's not that much information, it's rather poorly organized because you're herded through like cattle with all of the insane number of tourists, and most of all, there are no interactive elements, so it feels super outdated and really kind of just thrown together because they had to put something in this terrible tourist attraction. There's also the giant wine barrel, which is a giant wine barrel, and it might be the biggest tourist trap I've ever seen in my life. I mean, like I said, it's a giant wine barrel. And if you want to fight with a bunch of people to get a photo of a giant wine barrel, then I don't know why you're clicking on a no bullshit travel guide, because that's exactly the kind of stuff that I would advise you not to go to. However, if you end up being in Heidelberg, in which case I'm very sorry for you, then I do actually have a tip. Don't pay to go to the stupid castle, just walk up the hill from the other side, because you can go through this little cave system and get beautiful shots of the city from there without having to pay a cent. But what happens once you leave the castle hill and you go into the old town? Well, it's kind of cute, but I gotta be honest, there are several places in Germany that I find much better, and they're not full of nearly as many tourists despite having way more stuff for tourists to go do and see. This is the Heidelberg paradox, the fact that there's really not much compelling stuff there to see and do, and yet everyone is there to see and do something. As I mentioned, the castle is incredibly underwhelming, but it extends beyond that. For example, the Heilige Geistkirche, the main church that every tourist wants to go to, I gotta be honest, is really, really lame. I think you could find a church of this caliber in some small little town off the highway in Rheinland-Pfalz or something. Because I gotta be honest, I saw churches that were much more beautiful when I was driving back home through just random rural parts of Germany. Why is this a tourist attraction? Please explain. There is another church that's definitely much better, but even then it's not really anything special, and I gotta be honest, I'm not going to a whole city just to see one mediocre church. And then we have Heidelberg University, which is the city's #1 claim to fame, maybe other than the castle. And I'm not going to get into too much detail here, but I've actually had a bad personal experience dealing with the university. And beyond that, visiting the attractions that have to do with the university is somehow almost as underwhelming as the castle. You see, there's the University Museum, and there are the student prisons. And now the student prisons is an idea I thought would be very interesting to discover. I thought it would be really cool to visit. No, it's not. It's insanely lame. It's super small, and there is literally no information telling you about anything that happened there. It could be cool if they added some actual elements, if they actually organized it to be a real tourist attraction, but instead they basically just let you go into these completely unaltered rooms for a relatively expensive price, and then go to a university museum that I found also really lame. I will say the Grand Hall, which is something you can visit as part of your ticket, is supposed to be cool. It looks kind of cool from the photos, but when I was there, it was inexplicably closed, so be on the lookout for that. But I don't want to be so negative, so let me tell you guys a secret tip. Don't go to Heidelberg. Instead, there is an amazing place you can go very close by. Schwetzingen. Schwetzingen has a palace with gardens, and it is the third most visited castle in all of Germany. My theory is that a significant portion of people who go to Heidelberg Castle and are deeply disappointed by how lame it is end up going here right after to get the bad taste out of their mouths, because that's what I had to do. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do a tour of the palace because they don't put their times online for anything except the garden, and I couldn't go in the garden mosque either. But I'm going to do you all a little favor and reveal this secret tip. Here are the opening times, so you can get a leg up on everyone else who has no idea. You're welcome. This is why you watch my channel, of course. But yeah, I was just able to visit the gardens, and let me tell you, just visiting the gardens was the most fulfilling experience I had in my entire day. It was better than anything I did in Heidelberg by a mile, and these gardens are massive and absolutely beautiful, full of detail, full of cool things to explore. And I gotta be honest, my #1 favorite thing when I'm traveling is to feel like I'm kind of on an adventure, and this gave me that feeling more than almost anything I've ever visited in my life. Just being in this massive series of gardens with all these hidden things to check out, like an old Roman-style temple just hidden behind some trees. I mean, where else are you going to find that? It's amazing. You'll find multiple temples dedicated to Roman gods, which are all beautiful and picturesque. You'll find a giant mosque that's absolutely gorgeous. And of course, the palace itself, not to mention these trees that somehow have been trained to grow like arches. I mean, how did they even do that? So yeah, Heidelberg sucks, if you ask me, and it's the biggest tourist trap I've ever been to in all of Germany, and one of the worst destinations, most disappointing ones at least, that I've been to in Germany. But everything has a positive side. So if you're in Baden-Württemberg, you should definitely check out Schwetzingen. And on the way soon, I have another video coming about Mannheim, a city also in Baden-Württemberg that's very close to Heidelberg, and I'm going to have a much more positive view on that one. So while I'm warning you today to steer clear of Heidelberg, Stay tuned, because in the future, I'll be letting you know about all the amazing places you can go with your valuable time on Earth instead. Thank you for watching, everyone, and goodbye.